Hello, my name is Carla, I am Skeletor and welcome to my video. So this will be my second piece for Plastober, which is a prompt list made by plastic.pen over on Instagram. Please go check him out, he's a really cool guy. And if you enjoy the piece that I'm making today, you'll really enjoy his artworks. So I don't know if I mentioned before, but for Plastober, because he split it into 4 different themes throughout the month, so essentially there's 4 weeks of a certain theme, and within that week each day has its own prompt. I decided that for each week I'd sort of make art in a different way. So for the first week I decided to do a full digital piece using Procreate, and for this week I wanted to do an animation, which I've also used Procreate to do, which if you've used the animation assist feature on Procreate, you know that it's not really designed for full animated works, which, because I'm quite new to animation in general, I didn't really realise until I started on this piece. I've done quite a few little animations, like my start and end screen for the videos, and I've done a couple of little animations on some of my previous digital drawings, and they were quite simple, but I know even just from like my start screen, even though it's just moving text, I've put a lot of effort into it. And if you don't know much about the animation process, you probably wouldn't realise just how much goes into a small amount of animation. So basically, I've done my usual of biting off more than I can chew, and the video hasn't gone quite to plan. Because it's a Speedpaint, and it was always going to be a Speedpaint, the animation side of it is quite boring, or at least I think it would be boring to watch, because most of the bits that I've animated, it's more of drawing one little thing and then moving it each frame rather than redrawing it. If it was a bigger project, like animating a small story, it would make sense to draw each frame, and I think it would look better for it, but because of what I wanted to animate in this piece, it wouldn't make sense to redraw every single frame. And you'll see when I start the animation process, the first thing I wanted to animate was the headset, and I wanted it to look like it was switched on, there's energy moving through it, and it needed to look smooth. And if I had redrawn every frame, it just wouldn't have looked smooth. And I have shown that in this video, because I think it's important, especially if you've never animated, and especially in Procreate. I think it'd be interesting to see how it gets done. But for the most part, showing that process over and over again, I didn't think it would be that interesting. So I wanted to show the digital colouring process, because I think that's more interesting to see. And for this piece, I had planned my colour palette in advance, because I really struggle with colours working together. So this time, it looks pretty smooth. So the main concept of this, which came from the theme of this week, which is high tech, low life, and I chose the prompt for day 12, which is bright, and I came up with quite a few ideas revolving around the same concept of using bright screens to sort of entice people in, to say, you know, people are more interested in tech, their phones, their computers, the TVs rather than nature and connecting with a world that's actually sat around them outside of all the tech. And I know this is more of a current or recent sort of argument, especially from older generations, and I think a lot of people like to spin the notion of, people have stopped caring about human interaction and, going outside and experiencing the world as it should be experienced, and I don't really subscribe to that, but I can see where people come from when they do talk about things like that. In my personal opinion, I think people can and should have the best of both worlds. I think technology is a fantastic addition to people's lives, but my artwork is sort of driving it home that these people sat down in these chairs hooked up to these massive machines have clearly chosen to sit here and, in my head, presumably paid money to sit here and set up their own sort of fantasy in the head of what they want to project and experience in that moment. And literally every single screen is something that they could go out and do in real life. They could physically go out and do it. But on the flip side to that, your interpretation could be that they're sat in a very futuristic world where all this nature that they're trying to project in that moment is no longer available. And this is my favourite thing about art in general. Movies, books, TV shows, artworks, etc. I just love the fact that so many different people can interpret so many different things in so many different ways. I just love reading a book and making my own judgments and interpretations in my head. And especially when not enough description is being given, I prefer that because I can put my own spin on it. I can read too much into it. I can be an English teacher about it and talk about how that curtain colour means the main character is depressed. I like it when artists give the viewer that power, and I would love to know how you have interpreted this artwork. That being said, there might be some of you out there that hate not knowing what the artist originally intended, but I just think there's some things better left to the imagination. And it does completely depend on the context of the art itself. If it's a serious piece with a message, then of course it's important to determine what the artist meant. But for something that's not serious, it's not political, it's not really important to know the intention, I think it's more fun for people to make their own mind up. So you'll see at one point I did start to make a sort of glow from each of the screens, and they all cast a shadow on the people sat in front. And I did that quite early on, and I quickly realised I need to leave that till last, because with Procreate it's really difficult to organise everything. And like I said, I'm very new to animating. I've only ever used Procreate to animate, but each layer is a frame, and this means that everything you want to animate within one frame has to be on the same layer. So that glow that I need, which has to be sort of above everything else, has to be the last thing I do, because I need to merge everything and flatten each layer. I haven't done much research, but I would love to believe that other animation specific programs have a better structure, and I hope that each frame has separate layers within it. It would make it so much easier and far less time consuming And I think in future, if I do use Procreate, I'll definitely stick to simpler animations. Or maybe it's just me and I just seriously need to work on my planning skills. Either way, I definitely really enjoy animating the whole process because I feel like you get quicker results. I think I've mentioned before that I'm quite impatient, and if I don't see a result that I want quick enough, I get really frustrated. But with animation, each new frame is progress. So I definitely think it's going to be worth my time looking into a better animation program, because I would like to take it more seriously because I've really enjoyed it. So this is the final result, and there should be some zoomed in shots coming, and you'll see just how much effort I've put in to areas that are way too small. And I think if I ever do such a big animation again, I'll definitely take that into account. When it's zoomed out, you just can't see some of the things that I've put a lot of time into. That being said, I don't really regret it. I've really enjoyed putting this much work into one piece, and because I've put so much time and effort into this, I can be proud of it, even if I have made some mistakes along the way. Jasper definitely doesn't say hi this time because he's fast asleep. Anyway, I just want to really thank you so much for watching, and I hope you stick around for the next one. Ta-ra!